In this tutorial, I will demonstrate how to use Premiere Elements to edit talking head footage shot with a single camera. More specifically, you will learn how to hide jump cuts in talking head footage, how to create cadence using cutaway clips, how to insert fade to and fade from black transitions, and of course, how to export a final format. Some of the key terms that you'll need to understand and you will learn in this tutorial will include the jump cut, the cutaway, transitions, tracks, presets, the MP4 container file format, and the H.264 codec. As a general overview, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a talking head interview that has a video track that you shot one time, one question, and the audio track. After you import that into Premiere Elements, you're probably going to find that some of that content is unnecessary, and you'll want to trim that video clip and the corresponding audio down to a shorter duration. When you do this with talking head footage, you create what's called a jump cut. Right here at these seams in the video track, in the video 1 track, you'll see the talking head shift positions. And this is highly undesirable and highly unprofessional. And the most common way to hide that is to use cutaway footage, that is, other clips that you shot that relate to whatever it is the speaker's talking about, and then you simply position them in a separate video track above them. So in this case, we have 6 different cutaway clips that are positioned above the primary video 1 talking head track. When we export this, all of this will composite downward to create a very seamless talking head video that has interspersed within it cutaway clips that create this very rhythmic sense, this very desired sense of cadence that helps break up the monotony of the talking head video. For this particular sample project that I'm using as a model for the homework assignment, I decided to shoot some footage of a local restaurant. I began by interviewing the manager and asked him a very simple question to tell me a little bit about the history of this particular restaurant. The restaurant is named Twin Lakes. And from there, I shot several other clips of the interior of the restaurant, the exterior, and then some of the location shots, a shot of the bridge in particular. And all of these were shot to coincide with what he talks about in his interview clip. So my very first step, of course, is to transfer those video clips from the camera to the computer. Now this will vary, of course, as we studied in one of the previous modules, but once transferred from the camera, you should create a brand new folder and put these clips inside that folder to consolidate everything. And as we studied in a previous module, this is very, very important practice. Always keep your media assets together for each project. So once they've been downloaded from the camera and installed in this folder, now we're ready to edit. So to begin a new project in Premiere Elements, as you learned in the other videos that you've already watched, we obviously need to name our project, and in this case I'm going to choose an intuitive name, the name of the restaurant. I'm going to call it Twin Lakes, and I'll make sure that I choose a save-in destination that's logical so I know where to find the source footage. But then, most importantly, I need to change some of these settings here to make sure that I grab the preset that is most appropriate for my content. Now, it's helpful to understand here in advance what kind of footage you have. So before I even make that selection, I'm going to return quickly here back to my footage, and I'm going to right-click on any one of those clips and go to the Properties panel. Inside the Details tab right here, it will tell me what my frame width and height is. This is really important to maximize quality. In other words, these are the source dimensions from the footage that I captured raw using my camera. I had a width of 1440 pixels by 1080. So this is HD. It's not full HD, 1920 by 1080, but it's 1440 HD, which is still very, very good. So I'm going to memorize those numbers and click OK, and then return back to Premiere and choose an appropriate setting. Now in this case, I know that my camera shot AVC HD video. Yours may shoot mobile device video, so many of you might be looking in this folder here. But the point is, choose the one that has the frame rate and the frame size appropriate for your device. In this case, the frame size is 1440 and by 1080, and my frame rate, of course, is about 30 frames a second. So this preset for me is what I want to use. It is possible to create custom presets, but we'll worry about that later in the course. Let's keep it simple for now. Just pick a preset, and again, most of you will probably be down in here in the mobile devices section, or if you're shooting HD video, you might choose one of those settings there. So click OK, and then let's get started. As you recall from the previous videos that you watched at Adobe TV, you know that you need to add your media first. So I'm going to click on Add Media and go to the Files and Folders icon and navigate to the folder where I have this footage, grab them all and click Open, and that will insert them then into the project bin for this particular file. And at this point it gives me a little pull down menu here. I can collapse it, I can expand it, etc. And I'm going to grab the very first track that I need to use and put it down here in video 1. At this point I'll collapse that tab, I'll expand this, zoom in just a little bit so I can fill it across, and maybe I'll scroll down just a little bit here so I can see my video 2 track. Okay, so this is my primary clip, and I know that he talks a lot here in various places about stuff that I really don't need to talk about. So probably one of the first things I'll do is to choose my entry point. Now I've got the volume muted here, but I've memorized this a few times. So I'm going to get right here when he's about to start talking, right there. I'm going to put my playhead right here and then click on the end of the clip and snap to that playhead alignment, and that will trim out the previous video so that it then starts exactly where he begins speaking. And you know this, of course, because you've already studied those other videos, so I'm not going to spend much time there. But what I want to do here is to show you, at least in my video, right around, let's see, it was around 30 seconds, right there. At this point here, he launches into about a 25-second babble about something that is not terribly interesting, and I don't really need it. And this happens a lot when you're interviewing, and even though we're going to study interview techniques later in the course, it's important for you to know now how to get rid of stuff you don't need. Well, this scissor icon right here is very valuable. We can cut that just like in the old days they used to cut film and then tape it back together. So I know that I need to cut it right there, and then right about here, because I watched this footage a bunch of times here, right at about 55 seconds there. I want to get rid of that content too. So I'm going to scissor it again. And now I've got this middle section here that I don't need. He talks about stuff that's relevant here and stuff that's relevant here, but in the middle he doesn't need, I don't need that. So I'm going to press the delete button and watch what happens. You now see the content snap back to the other clip. And so this is great with one issue. For example, if I scroll ahead right here, right there, do you see him jump? Bam, bam. Okay, he's in one position here, and I scroll ahead, bam, he's in another position there. This is called a jump cut, and it's to be avoided in most productions. The way we hide a jump cut is to put cutaway footage on top of it up here in video track number 2, and that is very, very easy to do. So I'm going to go to the Add Media button, Project Assets, and I'm going to grab the kitchen video right here, the kitchen video clip, and I'm going to drag that in and place it right on top of that. Collapse this menu back up, and obviously I need to trim this because it's too long right now. I probably want to start right about here, so I'll trim that over, and then it's going to finish up just as we get to the stove here, something like that. So it's very short cutaway, and then I can position this right on top of that jump cut. And as you'll see now, when I play it, he'll be talking, and then while he's talking, it cuts away to the kitchen footage, and then we cut back to him. And notice we have no more jump cut here because we've hidden it with this particular clip. This is a very clever technique to hide your splicing. Now there's several other parts in this video here where I need to do this. So actually just one other spot, but I'm going to go ahead and trim it out and get rid of it, and then I'm going to put my other cutaway pieces in here as well. So I'm going to skip ahead now because again, you know how to get started on this based on what you've seen in the other videos. So let me skip ahead and I'll come back to you and show you what it looks like when all of the cutaway clips have been placed appropriately. Okay, now you should be able to see where my primary jump cuts are. One was right here and one was right here, and I've hidden both of them with additional clips that I pulled out of the Project Assets tab, and I trimmed them up and position them right on top of those jump cuts. I also have a couple cutaways, like the one here at the beginning, where we cut away to the kitchen. I've moved that one over a little bit now, and this one now doesn't cover a jump cut. It's simply there because this is the point in the video where he's talking about what they serve, and so it seems appropriate to cut away to a shot about the kitchen so that it reinforces the content. And then when we get up here to my first jump cut, I've moved it around so that I now have two clips back to back. This is where he's talking about the restaurant itself and the history of the restaurant. So I've got some exterior shots that cover that jump cut. And then here, of course, he starts talking about its location, and I've put two clips together of the bridge, and they cover up this jump cut right there. Then, of course, at the very end, he starts, excuse me, at the very end, I want to finish the video so that the viewer is reminded the name of the restaurant. So that's going to be my closing clip right there. And so the key takeaways here are to position cutaways on top of your jump cuts and position cutaways where they reinforce the content that the subject is, about which the subject is speaking. Now, of course, we're not finished yet. If I were to play this video, we have straight cuts. We begin with this. He's talking right now. And again, I've got the audio track muted so I can talk over it. And we cut away to the clips. I want you to notice the cadence here. We have just a few seconds of talking head, followed by a few seconds of cutaway, followed by a few seconds more of cutting head, etc. This is a rhythm that you create. And the reason you keep your clips short is to keep the viewers from getting bored. Yes, I know everybody has a short attention span, and we're only spending a few seconds with each clip. So we're creating a very specific cadence here using the talking head footage as the base video and then overlaying on top of it all these different cutaways. And this rhythm helps break up the monotony of the pure talking head video. But we're not done yet. We still have to add a couple things here, and I know that we're going to get much more sophisticated with our editing later, and we're just sticking with straight cuts here for most of this. But I want to finish the video here at the very end with some transitions where we fade to black, and I want to begin the video with some transitions where we fade in from black, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. But at first, we need to put a text title in here. The ultimate beginning of this particular project, I want to know what the question is that you asked your interview subject. So in this case, the question that I asked was, what is the history of Twin Lakes Restaurant? And I want you to go ahead and create a text title and place it in your project. So I'm going to choose a default text here. It's kind of hard to read there. I'll make it bigger in just a second, but the content that I'm going to insert here is simply, what is the history of Twin Lakes Restaurant? Question mark. I'll grab my position handle here and I'll select it, and I'm going to boost it up, make it much bigger so that it fills most of the frame here, something like that. I'll make it a tad bigger. There we go. Okay, now you can see how the text here is positioned on top of the actual footage. This is not terribly desirable, and it's very easy to fix. In some cases, you would want text on top of footage, especially when you're using lower thirds to identify a person. For example, I could say manager under the talking head shot, but in this case, I simply want to use a text title to introduce the question, to help situate the audience so they understand what the context of this project is. So here's how that's done. If I deselect this, and if I scroll up, you'll see now in video track 3, good grief, I have this title slide that's laid on top. So now I have 3 different video clips on top of each other. I've got the title slide, I've got the cutaway footage, in this case the tight shot of the Twin Lakes door, and then all of that is on top of the interview. And this is not necessarily too much, but it's not the optimal position for this title slide. I want it to go before the other footage starts playing. So how do we move this? Well, it's real easy. I'm going to reduce my zoom level here a little bit, and then I'm going to drag select all of that content and move it over, just shove it over for a second, and then drag the title clip down and then move it back. Whoops, sorry about that. I have to drag select everything again and then move it back so it snaps to. Now I can put it in either the video 2 track, or if I wanted to, I could drag it down into title 1, and sometimes it's a little bit easier to put it in title 1. So let me scroll back down just a little bit and zoom in a little bit more. That might be too much. How about like that? And now you can see that I've got my title slide right here, and probably don't need it to be on that long, something like that. So now the project begins with the title slide, and then we'll cut straight to that opening shot. Remember, he's talking right here, even though I've got it muted right now just so I can talk over this. This is when he would be talking. Let me collapse that. It might be easier to understand. And then we go to we'll cut directly to him, the talking head shot, and then we'll go to the next cutaway shot, and then back to the talking head, and then to the next cutaway shot, and so on. This again is that cadence that we were talking about. The last edit I want to make to this is to insert some fade to black and fade from black transitions. Now you already know how to do this based on what you saw in the other videos, but just to remind you, let's go to the end first. That'll be a little bit easier to understand. For this clip right here, I want it to fade out to black right there. So I'm going to go to the end of the production here and slide it over just a little bit to make room for this transitions menu. I'm going to grab the dipped black effect, or excuse me, not effect, it's the transition, and keep in mind you have these arrows here that have different categories of transitions, but I'm going to use the dissolve dipped black and grab it and throw it on over here. I'm going to have it exit to the right, so I'm going to select the right option, keep the duration set at done, and now you can see when as I preview this, we cut directly to the clip and then it starts fading. But notice what happens. I have another clip underneath here, so as the top clip fades out, it reveals the bottom clip. So what does that mean? Well, it simply means that you also have to apply the transition to the bottom clip, and this is really important. So make sure you grab it and drag it there and set it up exactly the way you set the previous one, and now you'll see both of these will fade to black instantly or simultaneously, giving the illusion that the production is completely finished. And it is, well, with the exception that I still have to do this at the very beginning here. So I'm going to put my fade ins from black right there. And this of course is done the exact same way. So click on each clip, click on the transition, grab dip to black and drag it over to the left hand side of that clip, and then click done, and then do the same thing for the one beneath it, but make sure that you've selected it first. Transitions, dip to black, drag it over on top of that, click done, and now you can see that it will fade in, but whoops, looks like I didn't have it positioned right. There it is, right on top of that, and now it fades in, boom, nicely, right after the title slide. From here, of course, the final step is to export this. And exporting from Premiere Elements 11 can be very complicated, and fortunately they make it somewhat easier for us with some select export presets. And if you can sense some trepidation in my voice, it's with good reason, because under the publish and share option here, there are a lot of different options here. We'll discuss many of these later in the course, but for right now I want you to export it using the mobile phones and players setting. As far as these presets are concerned, this is probably the most practical one to use to export a video that you want to place on the internet for student use or for non-broadcast professional use. Later in the course I'll show you how to make a custom preset, but for now let's just use this one. So select it, and once it loads up you have a lot of different categories here, and the one that I think works most relevant for us is the Apple iPod, iPad, and iPhone option. Now it's not just for Apple. Anybody with any device will be able to view these. The key finding here is the file type H.264. That's the key criteria. The H.264 is the codec that is used to create video inside an MP4 container file, and we'll learn a lot more about that later in the course, but just know that H.264 is what we're looking for. And in this presets pull down menu, go ahead and go down to a 1280 by 720 footage, this iPhone 4 720p. This gives us the frame size that is most compatible with YouTube, and which obviously is one of the web's primary video outlets. So we want to choose an HD setting at 1280 by 720, and this is assuming, of course, that you shot your video on an HD capable smartphone or video camera. So 1280 by 720 at about 30 frames a second using the H.264 codec. This is in the Apple, iPod, and iPad preset, and we're using the preset all the way down here. With all that said, I click the Save button, and it now starts the export process, and when I'm finished, it will look like this. You end up with an MP4 video that's now playable in virtually any device that's capable of rendering video. So the H.264 codec produces a file that has the MP4 extension. You'll get used to these file names and extensions later on, but just trust me for now, this is the file type that you want to use. This file is now ready to be uploaded directly into the course management system for your homework assignment. So good job. That concludes this tutorial on editing a single cam talking head project using cutaway footage. Thank you for watching, and good luck creating your homework assignments.